Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to be reading to you some selections from this book, Strange History. And it is chock full of strange and mysterious things that have happened all down through the years. The first one I'm going to read is all about weird things found in outhouse holes, and they were discovered by privy diggers. One discovery was a child's doll recovered completely intact. The mystery is most items that were disposed of in an outhouse were garbage. And strange though it may seem, it was not unusual to find perfectly intact dolls at the bottom of an outhouse in the 19th century. But what were they doing down there? The theory is that they ended up there by accident. Lots of times I think little girls went to the bathroom and accidentally dropped their doll down there, said one Michigan privy digger. He said Dad wouldn't go get it. Another discovery was 3 bottles of Wilkerson's teething syrup recovered from an outhouse in St. Charles, Missouri. And this syrup was used to help relieve a baby's teething pain. The mystery behind it is what's remarkable about these bottles is privy diggers say is that they are never found alone. They wonder why. The theory is the syrup's active ingredient is opium, which is highly addictive. Babies got hooked on the stuff, which meant that parents had to keep on buying it to keep them from crying. Oh, that's sad. 2 random origins. One is of the police car, and the other one is of pet hamsters. For the police car, it says, the first occasion in which a car was used in police work occurred in 1899 when Sergeant McLeod of the Northamptonshire, England County Police borrowed a Benz vehicle to pursue a man who was selling forged tickets for the Barnum and Bailey Circus. Top speed was 12 miles per hour. The first car regularly employed in police work was a Stanley steamer acquired by the Boston Police Department in 1903. It replaced 4 horses. Okay, very interesting. For pet hamsters, it says, the natural habitat of a golden or Syrian hamster, as the pet variety is known, is limited to one area, the desert outside the city of Aleppo, Syria. Their name in the local Arabic dialect translates to saddlebags, thanks to the pouches in their mouths that they use to store their food. In 1930, a zoologist named Israel Aharoni found a nest containing a female and a litter of 11 babies in the desert and brought them back to his lab at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. The mother died on the trip home, and so did 7 of her babies. Virtually all of the millions of domesticated golden hamsters in the world are descended from those 4 hamsters that survived. Very, very interesting. Okay, so why did the chicken cross the road? It sure wasn't to make people laugh. So why is the unfunny chicken joke so famous? Because people in the past didn't quite have the refined sense of humor we have today, honk honk. Historians have been unable to find a plausible answer to why this odd riddle is so popular, but they have found its origin. It first appeared in print in 1847 in the New York magazine called The Knickerbocker on a page titled Gossip with Readers and Correspondents. A reader wrote in, there are quips and quillets which seem actual conundrums but yet are none. One of such is this: why does a chicken cross the street? Are you out of town? Do you give it up? Well then, because it wants to get to the other side. But why? We may never know. What goes up? Pilatre de Rozier, the first person to ever ascend in a balloon in the year 1783, tried to combine the 2 early methods of ballooning: hot air, which used ordinary air heated by an open flame, and hydrogen gas, which is lighter than air but highly explosive when exposed to fire. Helium, which is not explosive, was not discovered until 1868. When he attempted to float across the English Channel on June 15th, 1785. He used a hybrid balloon, one compartment filled with air heated by an open flame, and the other filled with an explosive hydrogen gas. About 15 minutes into the flight, the flame found the hydrogen, and de Rosier's ballooning career ended with a bang as he plunged more than 3,000 feet. De Rosier, the first person to ascend in a balloon, also became the first person to die in one. Oh my goodness. Wow. In the 1950s, it was said that it was illegal for a flying saucer to land in a French vineyard. Oh, brother. Okay. Paperweight. In 1965, an aspiring English publisher named Lionel Burleigh announced that he had started a newspaper called the Commonwealth Sentinel, which he promised would be Britain's most fearless newspaper. Burleigh did everything it took to make the paper a success. He promoted it on billboards, sold advertising spaces, wrote articles, and printed up 50,000 copies of the first issue so that there would be plenty to go around. Burleigh remembered every detail except for one very important thing: distribution. In fact, he had forgotten it completely until he received a phone call from the police informing him that all 50,000 copies had been deposited on the sidewalk in front of the hotel where he was staying. They were blocking the entrance. Could he please come and remove them? Britain's most fearless paper folded after just one day. To my knowledge, we only sold one copy, Burleigh remembered years later. I still have the shilling in my drawer. Oh, goodness. Notable bulbs of history, and these are bulbs that you plant in the ground. The awesome onion. Onions have been cultivated for more than 5,000 years. The ancient Egyptians considered them sacred and believed that the round shape and concentric rings symbolized eternity. The slave laborers who built the Great Pyramid of Giza 5,000 years ago were fed mainly chickpeas, onion, and garlic. Ancient Greek athletes ate onions to boost their energy. Roman gladiators were rubbed down with onion juice in belief that it would make their muscles firm. By the Middle Ages, onions were common throughout Europe and were eaten by rich and poor alike. It was one of the few foods that were eaten by rich and poor alike, I guess. Onion superstitions are common throughout history. They had the power to absorb poison. Every onion was checked before cooking. Bad onions were tossed out because it was assumed they had absorbed poison. They cured colds, headaches, earaches, laryngitis, snake bites, and dog bites. They cleared warts and prevented baldness. If hung in the home, they warded off disease. How a piece of tape changed history. In the early morning of June 17, 1972, an $80 a week security guard named Frank Wills was patrolling the parking garage of an office complex in Washington, D.C., when he noticed that someone had used adhesive tape to prevent a stairwell door from latching. Wills removed the tape and continued on his rounds. But when he returned to the same door at 2 a.m., he saw that it had been taped again. So he called the police, who discovered a team of burglars planting bugs in an office leased by the Democratic National Committee. This third-rate burglary and the cover-up that followed grew into the Watergate scandal that forced President Richard M. Nixon to resign from office in 1974. And it says that Richard Nixon was said to have said, "I would have made a good pope." I've never heard that. Okay, kings who ate themselves to death. King Henry I of England was a man of indulgence. Crowned in 1100, he was popular with the people and especially the ladies, fathering at least 20 illegitimate children through his many mistresses. He found food hard to resist as well. Even though his doctors warned him not to consume one of his favorite foods, sea lampreys, which can be toxic if they're not cleaned properly. The king wolfed down a large meal of the fatty fish one evening in 1135. The result was he got food poisoning and died. King Adolf Frederick, who ruled over Sweden in the 18th century, is known today as the king who ate himself to death. On February 12, 1771, Frederick devoured a feast fit for a dozen kings. Multiple helpings of lobster, caviar, sauerkraut, cabbage soup, smoked herring, and champagne. Frederick may have survived the dinner, but his intestines couldn't take what he ate for dessert. He had 14 servings of semela, a bun filled with hot milk and marzipan, a rich mixture of sugar and ground almonds. He died a very painful death. Goodness. Crazy, some of the things that have happened. I'll just read a couple more here. The X-ray shoe fitter. In the late 1940s, the Adrian X-ray Company out of Milwaukee made and sold 10,000 devices to shoe stores all over the United States that allowed customers to see just how well their shoes fit by X-raying their feet while they were wearing the shoes. The X-ray shoe fitter allowed them to see inside the shoe and also their bones via a small window in the unit. The machines were a popular novelty, especially among children. Although the box where you rested your feet was lead-lined, neither the compartment nor the viewing windows were sealed. The result was persistent radiation leakage. As the nuclear age dawned and the dangerous effects of radiation came to be known, these machines slowly started disappearing from shoe stores. Thank goodness. But they weren't actually banned by the federal government until 1970. Even then, it took many years before they were officially phased out. The last radiation-leaking X-ray shoe fitter was still being used in Madison, West Virginia at a shoe store in the year 1981. Wow. Wow. Okay. I'll just read one more, and it's called Bug Bombs Away. In the days of high-walled castles, hornet nests were used as weapons, hurled via catapults over town and castle walls. The Romans especially liked to use bees and other stinging insects in their naval battles. They'd catapult nests and hives onto ships and wait for chaos to break out and for the sailors to jump overboard. In the 2nd century BC, the Romans found themselves victims, though, when they tried to climb the walls of the ancient fortified city of Hatra in Iraq, and the defenders threw clay pots at them containing not just bees and wasps, but some historians believe they also contained venomous scorpions. Wow, that'd be a reason to run the other way. The Viet Cong used scorpions against American troops during the Vietnam War. Because the North Vietnamese often operated out of a network of underground tunnels, any U.S. soldier unlucky enough to have found one of the tunnels might be surprised by tripwires and booby traps. If a tripwire were hit, a grenade might go off, or a box filled with angry scorpions might just fall on this soldier's head. Okay, and that's the end of my reading today of Strange History. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you again next time.